You're losing weight on your GLP-1, but are you losing too much muscle? Why don't you hang out with me while we talk about why protein is your secret weapon while I make some delicious chocolate peanut butter protein bars. And if you're new here, I'm Carrie, and I'm a 54-year-old nurse practitioner who's lost 50 pounds on compounded Tirzepatide and 110 pounds overall. And just a quick disclaimer, like always, I am a nurse practitioner, but I'm not your healthcare provider. You should always consult your own personal healthcare provider for any decisions about your medications or your treatment plan. So I'm making protein bars today for a couple of reasons. Protein bars really help me hit my goals, and like a lot of people, I do not particularly enjoy drinking protein shakes. I also have a really pretty nasty sweet tooth, and I love peanut butter and chocolate, and I like to actually chew and eat my food and taste my calories rather than just drinking them down. And I find that protein bars really help me meet my goals, but they're really expensive. So I decided a few months ago that I would start making them at home. And so today I'm going to make another batch along with you. And if you would like to try these yourself, I will pin the recipe in the comments section so that you can try them yourself. So this recipe that I'm making today only has 6 ingredients. First off, we're going to use peanut butter, and I like to use a peanut butter that contains no added sugars and no added oils. We know sugar is not good for us, and most of these contain seed oils, which are also not good for us. So this is nothing but ground peanuts, and that's what I'm going to use. It also contains some protein powder, and I am just using the protein powder that my husband uses to make his shakes with, his protein shakes. This has some added artificial sweeteners to it, and because of that, I'm not going to add very much other sweeteners because I'm going to let the artificial sweeteners in this do most of the job. It also calls for using maple syrup or honey or something like that. I don't have any maple syrup in the cupboard, but I do have some agave nectar. I'm going to use a little bit of this just to punch up the sweetness, just a hair. I'm also going to put some vanilla in it. And then I'm going to mix in some chocolate chips. And because I'm trying to keep the calories as low as possible, I'm going to use some chocolate chips that are sweetened with artificial sweeteners instead of sugar. And so that's going to be the bulk of our recipe. So while I'm making this, we're going to talk a little bit about protein. So first thing I'm going to do, my recipe here calls for, I printed it out, so I'll remember. A cup of peanut butter. So I've got a measuring cup here, and I'm going to measure out about a cup of peanut butter. Nice and gooey. It's starting to separate a little bit, not too bad. It does that over time, and I just want a cup of this. You know, a lot of people think that GLP-1s cause muscle loss, and that's not true. The medication itself does not cause any muscle loss. The muscle loss happens when you're losing weight for basically 2 different reasons. One of them is not really controllable, but the other one is. Let's see, about a cup here. Okay. So I'm just going to put this all in my bowl. So the first reason that we lose muscle when we're losing weight is simply because as your body gets smaller, it takes less muscle to carry that body around and to just get out of the chair and walk around and do the things that it needs to do. So as your body recognizes that it has less work to do, it knows it needs less muscle to do that work. And so it's going to pare down that muscle to just what you're actually using. And so that's the first reason that you actually lose muscle when you're losing weight. That's really not avoidable, and it's perfectly fine. It's normal. We expect that to happen. So the second reason that you lose muscle when you're losing weight is the avoidable reason. When you're in a strict calorie deficit, your body still needs resources to get stuff done. You need energy, you need a little bit of glucose to run, you don't need very much, but your body also needs the materials to rebuild cells and tissues as they naturally turn over cells over time. Old cells die, new ones are built, and you need the resources to be able to do that. And the fat that we have, that we're carrying around, can provide a lot of those resources. It can provide the resources for energy, but it cannot provide the amino acids that your body needs in order to rebuild cells and tissue. Because of this, we need to provide those amino acids through food. If we provide protein into our bodies in the form of food when we eat, then our bodies know that it's getting those amino acids that it needs, and it won't break down muscle in order to get those amino acids that it needs to use as resources for building things. So getting enough protein helps to tell our body that it doesn't need to burn muscle in order to do the things it needs to do. Additionally, fat cannot provide glucose, and we can use fat for the vast majority of our energy. That's not a problem, but our bodies need at least a little bit of glucose. And if we're in a serious calorie deficit, that may be not quite enough glucose provided through food that we need. And our bodies can break down protein to create glucose through a process called gluconeogenesis. And if we don't provide protein through food, then our body can break down our own muscle for this gluconeogenesis process in order to give us the glucose that our brain needs in order to function. But if we choose to eat enough protein instead, then our body doesn't have to go to muscle in order to create glucose to meet its needs. So when we go into a calorie deficit, our bodies don't automatically know that we just want to burn fat. We don't want to burn fat and muscle unless we give it a signal telling the body that we want it to just burn fat. And that signal is protein. So we need to make sure that we're getting enough protein so that our bodies know to burn fat and to spare that muscle for us. So these GLP-1 medications can make it harder for us to get enough protein. Our appetite is reduced, and we're eating smaller portions. Sometimes there's some nausea that interferes as well. And not getting enough protein can increase the risk of muscle loss. And that really matters because our muscle is not just cosmetic, it's also metabolic. Next thing we're going to put in is about half a cup of protein powder. This is half a cup. All right, what have we got in here? Half a cup. Might be easier to just stick this in. It's getting toward the bottom of the container here. A little more than that. All right, half a cup of protein powder. Right. And about the same amount of flour. Got my keto flour here. Half a cup. Stuff is so light and fluffy with the bamboo fiber in here. All right. Okay. So a lot of people think that when you're losing weight, you're eating less, you actually need less protein, but that's actually exactly backwards. When your calories are really low, your protein needs actually increase and go up. You know, normally I would put this in my stand mixer, but it's kind of given out. So I might need to get a new one. So, like, without that extra that signal of the extra protein, your body may be breaking down muscle instead of breaking down your just fat, right? So this is especially important when we're taking a GLP for weight loss, because that weight loss can be extra fast. Faster weight loss can mean faster muscle loss if your protein level just isn't there. Do you feel like you struggle to get enough protein? Comment about it down below and let me know. I read every comment. While you're at it, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more videos. Okay, so how much protein do you really need? Truth is, there's no magic number, and you could get 10 doctors in a room and ask them all how much protein you should have, and you can get 10 different answers. There's no real consensus. A lot of that has to do with everybody's body is different. A lot depends on your age, your size, whether or not you're actively losing weight, what your ideal weight is, where you're starting from, really how active you are. Those all can make a difference in how much protein you should get. General guidelines, And frankly, guidelines were not really written with GLP-1s in mind, so we're still learning this stuff. But generally, the guidelines suggest that you should get 0.8 to 1.2 grams of protein per kilogram of your ideal or goal body weight. So that's per kilogram of your ideal body weight, not per pound, and not per kilogram of your current weight or ideal weight. So, for example, for me, my goal weight is 150 pounds, and I would need to convert that into kilograms, which I do by dividing 150 by 2.2. And I don't feel like doing that in my head right now. Maybe I could, maybe not. But if I divide 150 by 2.2, and then I average that 0.8 grams per kilogram to 1.2 grams per kilogram, just average that to 1, then all I have to do is take my weight, divide by 2.2, multiply by 1, which is not doing anything. And that tells me about how many grams of protein I should be getting. And for me at 150 pounds, that works out to 68. Well, just a little higher than 68. I just happen to know that off the top of my head. So I aim generally for 68 grams per day. I will tell you, in my opinion, consistency is more important than hitting an exact number every day. I really just want to make sure that I'm not going into a chronic protein deficit. And I will say I generally get between 60 and 80 grams per day, but there are days when I eat significantly less than that, and there are other days when I eat significantly more. Okay, let's get this really mixed up. It's hard to make sure it's getting mixed up really well while I'm talking to you, but I'm glad you're here. Okay, so this is most of the ingredients. I'm going to put in, the recipe calls for like a quarter cup of sweetener. I'm going to put in about half that because, like I said, the protein powder already has some in it. So I'm just going to put some in just for texture, really. This might be, I don't know, a tablespoon and a half, 2 tablespoons. I don't know, we'll mix that through, and that should help me get these other things combined. And I'm also going to add about a teaspoon of vanilla. I do like to make my vanilla from scratch. Let me find a teaspoon here. This one's a teaspoon. All right, it's just about a teaspoon of vanilla. Oh, that's a little more than a teaspoon. Whatever. It's all good. It's not rocket science. It's just cooking, kind of. It's not even cooking. It's really just mixing stuff together. Let me get these out of the way here. Once I get this nicely incorporated, I'll mix the chocolate chips in. Okay, let's get this nicely mixed here. I hope banging the glass pan on the counter isn't too loud for you. Are pretty well incorporated here. You know, one thing I want to add is I hear a lot of people saying too much protein is hard on your kidneys. You're going to damage your kidneys. And that's really not true. And it only applies to people who already have pre-existing kidney damage. Eating protein in your diet does not cause kidney damage, but it can worsen kidney function if you already have kidney damage. So it's really not something that most of us need to worry about if our kidneys are functioning normally. It can increase the workload of the kidneys, but you know, our bodies are designed to handle workloads. That's what they're for, and your body will just handle it just fine. It'll increase the filtration, and it'll be just fine. So protein does not cause damage to your kidneys if you don't already have kidney problems. It's not something that most of us really need to worry about. Okay, this looks pretty well incorporated. So I'm going to press it into a bread pan that's lined with parchment paper. I'm just going to pour it in. I'm just going to press it down. I forgot to add the chocolate chips. That's what I get for trying to do 2 things at once. And peanut butter is great, but it needs chocolate. Frankly, everything needs chocolate. So the recipe that I pulled this from calls for about a quarter cup. I just put in chocolate until I feel like it looks like enough. And if I get into the pan and decide I want more, I'll add more chocolate chips to the top of it. Yeah, I do love me my peanut butter and chocolate. You know, even on these medications, my brain still remembers the old me, the old sugar addict me, and the old me with that nasty sweet tooth. That looks pretty good. I don't know, I put in maybe a quarter cup, maybe a little more. I'm going to put just a few more because I want to. All right. Like I said, you could use a mixer to mix this up if you don't feel like doing it by hand. But I think the texture looks pretty good. So let's try this again. I'm going to pour this into the pan. Just going to dump it in here. I've already lined this pan with parchment paper. All right. Let's get every little bit of that out of here. I'm just going to press down. Press down good. So muscle loss really does impact you long term. Muscle is your metabolic engine. And the less muscle mass you have, the lower your metabolism. So we really want to lose weight, but we want to get stronger as we do it, not weaker. So the more muscle you have, the more calories you can eat without gaining weight. And frankly, that in itself is a reason to do strength training. All right. Okay, what do you think? Does it look okay? All right. In addition to supporting your metabolism, protein helps regulate your blood sugar. It helps support your bone density. It reduces your fall risk as well. And it promotes independence as we age. Once we're over 40, we start losing a little bit of muscle every year. And over time, that can really result in significant loss that makes it difficult to remain stable and to keep from falling and just to stay independent and take care of ourselves. So maintaining muscle is really, really important. And so these types of protein-rich foods can really help you meet your goals. There's nothing particularly magic about these bars, but on days when my nausea is up a little bit, or my calories are really low, these just help me meet that protein goal to make sure that I'm not losing more muscle mass than I need to. So what this really comes down to is protein is not optional when you're taking a GLP-1. It's really your metabolism and your muscle's best friend. So I'm going to go put these in the fridge, but I want you to hit the like button, and I want you to subscribe for more GLP-1 strategies that really work. And I'd also like you to comment below. Tell me, are you more worried about muscle loss or about getting enough protein in? Let me know. And thank you for joining me here on NP on a GLP, and we'll see you in the next video.